With the theoretical billions of ways to build a Path of Exile character, it's no wonder it's difficult to understand how to make a functional build. However, I believe it can be broken down into bite-sized chunks. It's time to finally explore, from the ground up, build-making basics. Welcome, it's your friendly neighborhood Badger here, and I'm back to explore more of what goes directly into making a build in Path of Exile. Our last video was on the passive skill tree, so what better follow-up is there to do than Ascendancies themselves? A class Ascendancy is basically a second skill tree with vast power, allowing you to specialize your character in so many unique ways. However, Path of Exile does a terrible job at explaining just what these are, and indeed even how to access them. Today, we will explore everything to do with the Ascendancies and how to obtain and utilize them as best as possible. First off, if you're watching this much later down the line, say when Path of Exile 2 has been released, there will be an entirely new set of Ascendancies. This video is based on the original 19 Ascendancies, as well as the Labyrinth, the place where you go to obtain your points. I'm sure when PoE 2 releases, I will have much more content out explaining the new stuff. Also, if you're enjoying this Build Making Basics series, consider subscribing. I'm pivoting a lot of my content from now on to directly helping new players in Path of Exile, so helping out with a sub and a like goes a long way in helping engagement and reaching those new players. Alright, let's jump into it. In Path of Exile, there are 6 base classes, and 1 class unlocked after first completing a story mission in Act 3 on any account. Of the 6 base classes, there are 3 specializations, or Ascendancies, each, and the final class, Scion, only has a single Ascendancy, but has the ability to semi-specialize into any other Ascendancy with her own tree. But let's break it fully down for you and give you a quick overview of each Ascendancy and their strengths. If you want to explore these yourself, you can either go to pathofexile.com/ascendancy/classes or utilize Path of Building, once again link in the description if you have not downloaded this amazingly powerful and helpful build tool. Each Ascendancy specialization gets a total of 8 points to spend, which often means 4 notables and 4 travel points, and you get 2 per difficulty of Labyrinth completed. Don't worry, we will explain everything to do with these points, the Labyrinth, and how to obtain them soon. First, let's talk about each Ascendancy quickly. Starting off with Witch, we have the 3 Ascendancies: Occultist, Elementalist, and Necromancer. Occultist specializes in cursing your enemies, applying debuffs, and buffing your cold or chaos damage. Often picked for the immense utility of applying a second curse or scaling damage over time, Occultist is a perfect pick for those looking to make yourself stronger by directly making the enemies weaker. Elementalist is all in the name. This Ascendancy is focused entirely around the 3 elemental damage types in Path of Exile: fire, cold, and lightning. Elementalist can manipulate any damage type to her liking, making cold damage able to shock or chaos damage able to ignite, for example. The Elementalist also takes a liking to a certain minion type in Path of Exile, golems, providing damage and defensive bonuses and allows stacking of multiple golems above the usual amount. Elementalist is perfect for pyromaniacs, electricians, and Wim Hof. The Necromancer prefers letting others do the work for her most of the time, providing immense bonuses to her minions, while buffing herself in the meantime. With a great spread of offense and defense, the Necromancer not only augments her minions, but also the corpses on the ground around her. She just can't get away from the dead. Next up, let's talk about the Shadows Ascendancies: Trickster, Assassin, and Saboteur. Trickster is all about quality of life. With massive buffs to characters who want to specialize in both evasion and energy shield, Trickster can provide this while also dishing out sustain, damage, and charge generation of both frenzy and power charges. The Trickster loves to go unnoticed, but is often considered one of the most balanced Ascendancies in the entire game. Assassin is all about critical strikes. Almost every single node has something to do with augmenting or buffing your critical strike chance or damage. Assassin is also considered the best Ascendancy for poison damage over time if you are specializing into critical strike, but can dish out some nasty damage regardless of what direction you take it. Saboteur is the only Ascendancy in the game fully focused around a certain archetype of builds: traps and mines. With an even split of utility for traps and mines, the Saboteur augments the damage and quality of life of these skills while also providing very underestimated defensive capabilities. If you have a hankering for traps or mines, best play Saboteur. Let's now jump to the Rangers Ascendancies: Deadeye, Raider, and Pathfinder. Deadeye is all about projectiles. Though the art wields a bow, don't let this fool you, Deadeye can also sling some nasty projectile spells if utilized correctly. With augmentations to number of projectiles, how these projectiles interact with the environment, and generation of a cool action speed buff in the form of Tailwind, Deadeye can tear through your competition from afar. Raider is all about speed and evasion. There isn't too much more to say than that. Considered the fastest Ascendancy in the game, Raider can provide so much quality of life that canonically Raider is considered the strongest all-round Ascendancy. Raider can also heavily focus on Frenzy Charges, a stacking charge that increases your attack, cast, and movement speed, while also providing damage bonuses. Pathfinder is entirely based around flasks, augmenting the power of them, providing bonuses on use of flasks, you name it, Pathfinder does it, squeezing out every last drop from your power bottles. Pathfinder also has some great chaos damage and poison utility nodes, and is praised for its sustainability. Utilizing all 5 of those flask slots on your character effectively is key to making Pathfinder sing. It's time to explore the duelist Ascendancies, Champion, Gladiator, and Slayer. Champion loves the heat of battle and is often the go-to Ascendancy when using physical attack skills, due to the buffs given for impaling enemies. Impale can be confusing, but don't worry, we will explore this damage type in another video. Champion also provides the best buffs in the game for Fortify, a passive defensive buff. Champion loves diving deep into packs and walking out victorious. Gladiator is often picked for some of the best defensive nodes in the game, focused around blocking. With some of the only big buffs to blocking spell damage, Gladiator can definitely take hits, but can also dish them out, providing some immense damage and utility to bleed damage as well. Gladiator is one of the most forgiving Ascendancies because of this. Slayer revels in just that, slaying. With a massive 20% life cull node, insane life leech quality of life nodes, and a bunch of smaller damage bonuses, Slayer can output some of the highest effective damage in the game. Though often overlooked, Slayer's leeching and movement capabilities puts him at the forefront of quality of life. Marauder has some beefy Ascendancies, so let's check them out. Chieftain, Berserker, and Juggernaut. Chieftain excels at all things fire, both dealing and defending against. There are so many ways to play Chieftain, but you best believe you'll be dealing fire damage to your enemies. Slams, totems, ignites, damage conversion, you name it, Chieftain can do it, all while mitigating incoming damage. Chieftain has some great recovery as well, and likes to take a hit. Berserker doesn't care about defenses. Sometimes it tries, but it prefers to do it the old-fashioned way. They can't kill you if they're dead. With massive bonuses to stacking up rage, dealing critical hits, or even yelling at your enemies with war cries, Berserker doesn't shut up about their immense damage. Hell, there's even a node that just directly buffs your damage by a large margin, but makes you take more damage in return. Talk about Chad. Juggernaut prefers to take damage, rather than dealing it. With some of the best defensive nodes in the entire game, Juggernaut is all about living, even if that comes at a cost of damage. Don't let the exterior fool you though, Juggernaut can be utilized in some interesting ways, such as stacking strength or accuracy to generate damage, or even stacking endurance charges, a type of charge that increases damage reduction and elemental resistances. Next up, we have the Templar Ascendancies, Guardian, Inquisitor, and Hierophant. Guardian is commonly considered the support Ascendancy due to its immense buffs to allies and party members. Whether stacking armor and mana to generate big defenses, or juicing up a slew of minions to carry with you, Guardian is a tanky, supporting Ascendancy with an unassuming front. Inquisitor specializes in combining attacks and spells together to unleash devastating results, but often gets utilized for its life and energy shield regeneration, as well as some amazing critical damage and elemental nodes. Inquisitor comes and goes from the meta, but is always a solid choice when considering critical elemental skills. Hierophant loves to utilize mana and or totems to the best of their ability. With specializations into totem quality of life and damage and great synergy with stacking mana for defensive capabilities, Hierophant is a strong contender for unconventional ways to scale damage and defense. And lastly, the Scion, who only has one Ascendancy, the Ascendant. The Ascendant is kind of a wild card, allowing you to specialize into other Ascendancy themes at a weakened version. Ascendant also allows you to choose one other class starting point to branch out from, and grants 5 extra skill points in total, more than any other class or Ascendancy, meaning stretching out is this Ascendancy's strongest point. So there's an overview of the Ascendancies themselves, but how do you even specialize? Well, that's where the Ascendancy Trials and the Labyrinth itself comes into play. Scattered throughout the leveling process, you may come across strange side areas with sliding doors that open to a slew of traps and obstacles. These areas are called Ascendancy Trials and are vital to complete in order to unlock your Ascendancy points. To complete a trial, you must make your way through the obstacles and touch the large font at the end. It will glow and dialogue will play from a strange voice. We will meet him later. There are 12 in total throughout the story, and once you get to endgame maps, there are an extra 6 which are harder, longer, and unlock the final labyrinth, the Eternal Labyrinth. In the story, the trials can be broken up into 3 sections: normal, cruel, and merciless, which unlock their respective labyrinths. It is a bit confusing, but for the normal labyrinth, you need to complete 6 trials, 1 in Act 1, 2 in Act 2, and 3 in Act 3. For the cruel labyrinth, you need to complete 3 trials, 1 in Act 6 and 2 in Act 7, and for the merciless labyrinth, you need to complete 3 trials again, 1 each in Acts 8, 9, and 10. As mentioned before, there is a final labyrinth called the Eternal Labyrinth, which can be completed after finding each of the 6 randomly generated trials in maps. They are pretty rare, so hope that RNG blesses you. Here's a tip: in these endgame trials, you receive offerings to the goddess when you complete them, which are a type of item that allows you to enter into the endgame labyrinth. But you can put this into your map device to get another shot at a random trial. You will always have a surplus of these, so use them. However, by now you may be asking just exactly what the labyrinth is, and how does this help unlock our Ascendancy? Let's talk about that. The labyrinth is, well, exactly that, a labyrinth in which you fight and find your way through to complete your Ascendancy or unlock extra Ascendancy points. As stated before, there are 4 difficulties, and each difficulty increases in length and complexity. Now, I won't be diving into every single mechanic in the labyrinth in this video, but go and check out www.poelab.com. It is an amazing website run by some very dedicated people, and will have all the information you need, including daily layouts of the labyrinths, how certain puzzles and traps work, and much more. Peruse it at your leisure. The labyrinth can be first accessed from a plaque above the market in the San encampment in Act 3, provided you have found the first 6 trials. If you haven't, you can click on the plaque and it will show you how many you are missing. From this point, you can then access the area by pressing M and bringing up the map, and over on the side you will see a small Ascendancy node. Upon entering this zone, head up the stairs and click on the offering bowl. It will show you the types of labyrinths unlocked, and you can select between them. Upon selecting your labyrinth, the doors will open and you can begin. Each labyrinth is guarded by Izaro, a mighty being looking to judge you on your combat ability. If you die within the labyrinth, you must restart it all over again. You also cannot portal in and out of the labyrinth middle of a run, so plan accordingly. The labyrinth is split into 3 parts, each part guarded by Izaro himself, in an arena where you fight him to certain health levels. Izaro can be wielding many different types of weapons, and is also helped by extra modifiers or minions that rise from the ground from these areas. Consult poelab.com for a bunch more info on all of the variations. If you manage to defeat a stage of Izaro without destroying whatever comes from these areas, you will be granted with an extra treasure key, used to unlock chests at the end of the labyrinth for more sweet loot. Upon completing the labyrinth itself, you will have just succeeded and will be able to ascend, but you also get some other goodies, as I just stated. You have some treasure keys, most likely, but you can also use the enchantment font. This area can apply special modifiers to your gloves, boots, or helmets, depending on what difficulty of labyrinth you have completed. There are also a lot of secrets in the labyrinth, like secret passages and extra rewards, but I won't discuss them here. If you do want a full video on the ins and outs of the lab itself, let me know in the comments down below. And finally, what we are all here about, your Ascendancy. At the back of the room there is a large plaque you can click on. This will give you the opportunity to select your Ascendancy. Choose wisely, it is difficult to respec this choice. Once selected, you'll be granted 2 passive points. You gain 2 passive points per unique labyrinth you run, so no cheating and just running the normal labyrinth 4 times for your points. It doesn't work that way, you sly motherf***. If you do want to respec your Ascendancy, you can, but it is relatively expensive to do so. You need a lot of Orbs of Regret. For each Ascendancy point, it costs 5 respec points, or 5 Orbs of Regret, so for a full Ascendancy, that costs 40 Regret Orbs. To respec, you must first complete any labyrinth. I suggest just doing the normal lab because it's the quickest, then respec all of your Ascendancy points, and the font at the end will then give you the option to change Ascendancies. Don't worry, you won't have to complete all the labs again, you will have however many points you had before you respect. And that's about it, everyone. I hope this helped some of you understand Ascendancies and how to utilize them a bit better. If you have a favorite Ascendancy, or you like the look of one in particular, let me know down below. I'd love to see what you all think. If you do have any questions whatsoever, you can also comment below, or you can come join my Discord. We are a large community of gamers who love to help one another, no matter the skill level. You are welcome. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you like the content, and can't wait for all the future build making basics episodes. Have a good one. Badger, out.